The grand ballroom of the ECOWAS summit in Abuja shimmered under golden lights, but the air was heavy with tension. The year was 2025, and Africa's leaders had convened for what was supposed to be a closed-door emergency session. On the agenda, regional insecurity, sanctions on military-led governments, and talks of realignment. But under the surface, something deeper was brewing. President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria adjusted his cap and leaned forward at the long table of presidents and ministers. His voice, usually composed, now carried irritation. We cannot allow military adventurists to hijack democracy in West Africa. If we do, we betray the future of our continent. He didn't mention names, but the room knew who he was targeting. Across from him sat Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, young and calm, wearing his signature brown uniform and red beret. His eyes didn't flinch. The cameras, allowed in for the first 10 minutes of the session, zoomed in. A murmur rippled through the room. Tinubu continued, voice rising, "We must take a stand. Those who forcefully seize power have no place in this community. Our people deserve civilian rule, not iron fists." The Nigerian delegation nodded solemnly. But Traoré raised his hand slowly. "Mr. President," he said, his voice low but clear. "Is it democracy you defend, or power you fear to lose?" Gasps echoed. A few aides froze mid-note-taking. Even the interpreter hesitated. "I did not come here," Traoré continued, "to be lectured by a man whose own citizens cry out daily under poverty, police brutality, and broken promises." President Tinubu stood, anger flashing in his eyes. "Young man, watch your tongue. You're speaking to a sovereign president, not a market crowd." "I am speaking to a man who shouldn't be a leader, someone who needs to step down," Traoré shot back. "You lecture us on democracy while ignoring your people's suffering. Is that leadership? Or is it cowardice wrapped in agbada?" The cameras were hurriedly turned off. ECOWAS officials whispered urgently to technicians. But the damage was done. Dozens of phones were recording off the record. A firestorm was about to ignite. Senegal's president attempted to calm the room. "Gentlemen, please, this is a diplomatic space." "No," Traoré said firmly, standing now. "This summit is a sham if we cannot speak truth. President Tinubu has failed the youth of West Africa. His government clings to outdated alliances and foreign dependence while our region burns. I am calling for an ECOWAS review of Nigeria's leadership. If a man cannot lead his own house, how can he lead the neighborhood?" A stunned silence followed. Even Tinubu seemed momentarily speechless. "You dare propose my impeachment from ECOWAS?" Tinubu finally asked. "Yes," Traoré said, unwavering. "Not because of age, but because you've lost the trust of the people you claim to represent." Tinubu's security detail shifted in place. Advisors gathered around him. The tension in the room was now molten. Then came the voice of President Nana Omori of Ghana, elderly and respected. "Let us not lose our heads. There are protocols, and we must follow them." But the damage was done. The words had been spoken. And within minutes, they were trending across every major platform, #Traoré vs Tinubu, #African Reckoning, #ECOWAS Divide. As the meeting recessed, President Tinubu stared across the table at Traoré. "This isn't over," he muttered. Traoré simply nodded. "No, Mr. President. It's just beginning." Abuja hadn't felt this alive in decades. The streets outside the ECOWAS headquarters were flooded with journalists, protesters, and police barricades. Overnight, the video of Ibrahim Traoré confronting President Tinubu had gone viral. No one cared that the official broadcast cut early, independent footage from inside the summit leaked across X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, and WhatsApp groups like wildfire. Traoré's words had struck a nerve. By sunrise, young Nigerians were tweeting, "He said what we've been screaming for years." #Tinubu must go trended for hours. Inside the Nigerian presidential villa, the atmosphere was grim. Tinubu sat with his closest advisors, the video paused on Traoré's icy stare. "He called for my impeachment before ECOWAS. Can you imagine the insult?" Tinubu hissed, slamming his cane on the floor. "This boy thinks he's Sonkawa. His rallying support, sir," his national security advisor warned. Online sentiment is shifting. Even some opposition senators have issued statements praising his courage. Tinubu's face twitched. So now a coup plotter from a landlocked country is their messiah. Meanwhile, in a private suite at the Transcorp Hilton, Traoré stood before his team, calm but focused. "They expected silence," he said, pacing. "But Africa is waking up. Our generation is tired of leaders who act like emperors while citizens beg for food." An aide rushed in, holding a tablet. "Captain, look." On screen was a video message from a popular Nigerian activist, praising Traoré's courage and demanding the Nigerian Senate take the allegations seriously. Another clip showed students at the University of Ibadan chanting, "We want leaders, not looters." Traoré's communications director grinned. "Sir, it's spreading. Ghana, Togo, even Cameroon. Youth are reposting your speech with the #NewAfricaNow." But Traoré knew better than to celebrate. "They will come after me harder than ever," he said. Not just ECOWAS, France, the US, even Nigeria's allies. They fear the people more than bullets. Back at the summit, emergency meetings had resumed. Tinubu's allies pushed to censure Traoré and label him a threat to democratic stability. But behind closed doors, murmurs spread. Sierra Leone's president leaned toward Ghana's delegate. You saw how boldly he spoke. Our own youth are watching. If we silence him, we may spark something worse. I agree, Ghana's delegate replied. We should talk, not threaten. But Nigeria's delegation wasn't interested in talks. Tinubu addressed the summit again that evening, this time with steel in his voice. Let it be known, Nigeria will not be insulted. We are the largest economy in Africa, and we will not entertain lectures from soldiers in uniforms. Those who want chaos should stay within their borders. Traoré stood again. And those who want respect must earn it. The room fell silent once more. The stage had been set. The next day, international news outlets picked it up. CNN ran a headline, West Africa in crisis? Young leader challenges veteran president. Al Jazeera followed, Traoré's defiance, a new voice in Africa. In Lagos, a peaceful protest turned chaotic when security forces fired tear gas into a crowd of university students. The footage made it online within minutes. The image of a blooded student clutching a handwritten sign, Traoré is right, became a symbol. Inside Nigeria's Senate chambers, for the first time, opposition lawmakers began whispering about motions no one had dared utter aloud. Impeachment. And deep inside the Aso Rock Villa, Tinubu sat alone at dusk, watching a replay of Traoré's speech. He muttered to himself, so this is how legacy ends. Outside, the call for change was no longer a whisper. It was a roar. Chaos brewed like a storm cloud over Nigeria. The morning after the ECOWAS showdown, newspaper headlines screamed Traoré's name in bold ink. Burkina Faso's young lion roars at Tinubu. Has Africa found its next revolutionary? On social media, support swelled. Hundreds of thousands updated their profile pictures with Traoré's image superimposed beside the words. We deserve better. In Lagos, a group of students at Unilag organized a flash protest. What started as 20 youths ballooned into 500 chanting under the hot sun. Traoré is not our president, but he's speaking for us, one girl shouted into a megaphone before security forces moved in with tear gas. Phones recorded everything. A clip of a young man being dragged across the pavement by police hit 5 million views by sunset. The presidency scrambled. Inside the war room of Aso Rock Villa, Tinubu's most trusted circle gathered in silence, eyes fixed on a large screen broadcasting global reactions. Al Jazeera analysts dissected Traoré's speech, comparing it to Sankar's legendary UN address. CNN featured young Nigerians calling for accountability, some using the word impeachment without flinching. We need to shut this down now, Tinubu snapped. I won't sit here while a junior officer from Ouagadougou lectures me like a schoolboy. His media aide spoke carefully. We've tried to control the narrative, sir. But it's not working. The youth are listening to him because he's saying what they've been dying to hear from us. Tinubu stood up, pacing. Then we give them a distraction. A big one. Arrest some agitators. Say it's for national security. We'll make an example out of them. But it was already too late. Inside the National Assembly, whispers had grown into conversations. A closed-door meeting of opposition senators took place that same evening in an undisclosed location. Senator Adebayo, who had once been neutral, now sat at the head of the table. Traoré gave us the spark, he said. But this isn't about Burkina Faso. It's about Nigeria. It's about decades of decay, silence, and fear. The people are ready for us to act. Another senator, younger and fiery, leaned forward. Then let's give them what they're asking for. Let's move the motion. Let's impeach Tinubu. There was a pause. Then nods. No applause. Just resolve. Meanwhile, at the Transcorp Hilton, Traoré received an encrypted call from his foreign policy advisor. They're targeting you now, the advisor said. France is pushing ECOWAS to classify your speech as incitement. And Nigeria's intelligence agencies are spreading disinformation, saying you plan to topple West African governments. Traoré sighed. When truth becomes dangerous, it shows how rotten the system really is. In the hallway, a small group of African youth delegates waited to speak with him, students, activists, young politicians. They didn't want pictures. They wanted guidance. We're not soldiers, sir, one girl said softly. But we're ready to fight. How do we do it without blood? Traoré looked them in the eye. With truth. With unity. With fearlessness. The old Africa is cracking, and they know it. What comes next is up to us. That night, Abuja didn't sleep. The military was placed on alert. The president's motorcade routes were changed. A viral flyer circulated online, Million Youth March, Sunday, Freedom Square, Abuja. And somewhere, buried in the noise, a single document leaked to the press. A draft motion. Title, Motion to commence investigative proceedings against the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for gross misconduct and dereliction of duty. The nation gasped. The line had been crossed. Sunday arrived like prophecy. From every corner of the country, Zaria, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, Enugu, they came. Some wore plain tees marked with #New Africa Now. Others painted their faces with the green-white-green. The streets of Abuja pulsed with energy. Tens of thousands, mostly young, swarmed Freedom Square for the Million Youth March. The chants echoed. Down with decay. We are the power. Traoré spoke, now we act. Above them, drones buzzed. Not media-owned, military. Inside Aso Rock, Tinubu watched from a secure chamber, silent. His national security advisor hovered nervously nearby, sweat clinging to his brow despite the AC. We can't open fire, sir. The optics, internationally, it'll crush us. Tinubu's jaw clenched. Then what do you suggest we do? Let them walk into this villa and sit on my throne? No, sir. But this movement has gone beyond control. Impeachment talks are heating up. ECOWAS is fracturing. Even America released a statement calling for peaceful democratic transitions. Tinubu knew what that meant. His supposed allies were preparing for a world without him. Meanwhile, in the Senate chambers, silence fell as Senator Adebayo walked to the podium. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The weight of his words did the heavy lifting. We have reached a crossroads. Our duty is not to a man, but to the people who entrusted us with this republic. I hereby submit this motion to begin impeachment proceedings against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for gross misconduct, suppression of civic rights, and failure to uphold the Nigerian constitution. Gasps filled the hall. Some clapped. Others stormed out. But the gavel banged. Motion accepted. In the Transcorp Hilton, Ibrahim Traoré watched the live stream in silence, surrounded by his inner circle. No smile. No celebration. Just reflection. I didn't ask for this storm, he murmured. But I will not hide from it. His communications director leaned in. Sir, the movement is bigger than you now. It sparked change in Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, even parts of South Africa. Students in Accra are organizing teach-ins on youth-led governance. But Traoré's eye stayed fixed on the screen. On Nigeria. On the battle that had become symbolic of a continent's reckoning. Back at the protest, police formed a barricade line. But the crowd remained peaceful, holding up signs reading, "Fix Nigeria or step down." Journalists from BBC, Al Jazeera, and The Guardian roamed freely, capturing every moment. And then, something shifted. A black SUV pulled up slowly through the crowd, escorted by private security. A young woman stepped out, Aisha Bello, former presidential candidate and activist. Microphones swarmed her, but she raised a fist. "I came to stand with my people," she declared. Traoré lit the match, but we must carry the flame. The crowd erupted. That night, Tinubu convened one last emergency cabinet meeting. He looked around the room, many avoiding his eyes. Loyalty had evaporated. "They're not after just me," he said, voice low. "They're after the entire system. They want something new." No one argued. No one spoke. And by dawn, it was done. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced a voluntary temporary leave of office to allow the Senate to conduct its investigation. A soft exit. But the message was clear. Power was shifting. From old hands to new voices. From silence to defiance. From puppets to patriots. Traoré flew back to Ouagadougou in silence, but as his plane touched down, the airport roared with cheers. Not for a savior, but for a symbol. And across Africa, a whisper echoed, through streets, through schools, through parliaments. We are awake now. If you think this kind of awakening is what Africa truly needs, drop your thoughts in the comments section. Would you support a leader like Traoré?